In this video, we're going to take a look at week 1 assignment 1 for 456. So I've got that up in the background here. Let's take a look at what we have. We have some notes posted at the top. We have the URL submission link here. Your first task is to connect to your web server space. Being 456, you've done this before. There are options for how you want to do it. You can map it individually through the folder each time, through the Windows folder. You can create a batch file and run that batch file from your desktop each time. When you are mapping the folder, you are mapping ecnisdev.ecn.purdue.edu/cgt456, and your login is your career account login, the one Purdue assigned you, but you have to put ECN backslash in front of it, and it is a backslash leaning this direction. So you'll need to do that when logging in to map the drive, and there is a couple videos down here on mapping the drive that'll help you there. If you are off campus, which many of you may be, you will need to have your VPN connection set up and ready to use at all times. The web servers that we are using are behind virtual private network. So in order to connect to them, you have to enable your VPN connection on your computer, and then after that you can map your drive and access the location. So again, there's a video there for mapping drives, and there's more information available from ECN as well on virtual private networks, on mapping drives, and so on. If you have troubles, please contact ECN. But make sure this week, before we start next week, that you get this set up. We've been through it before, so I expect each of you to be able to get through that and get that set up. Pretty simple. If you create a text file, just your last name and your first name, and save that in there. The folder names that ECN creates uses your login name. That's how they've chosen to create them. Some of your login names are pretty obvious, so I can tell immediately whose folder I'm in. Some of your login names are not very obvious, and it's difficult for me. Now I have automatically generated another file that has your name in there. That's fine, so you'll have two in there, but at least it'll be definitely easy for me to know that I am in the right folder when I am going in to look at things. Visual Studio, this is the other critical piece that's got to get done before next week. You have got to install and use Visual Studio 2019 Community. There's a link there to it. During the install, it's going to ask you what workloads you want to install. I chose ASP.NET and Web Development, .NET Desktop Development, Mobile Development with .NET, Data Storage and Processing, and then I selected individual components and chose the Web Development Tools plus .NET Core 2.1. We will be off and running using Visual Studio starting after the weekend, starting this coming week. An important thing for me to point out is that Visual Studio for Mac is not the same as Visual Studio for Windows. It does not have the same components, the same functionality. It will frustrate you to no end, and you will be disappointed, and you need to run Visual Studio for Windows in a Windows environment for this class. You need to either, if your primary machine is a Mac, look up or talk to someone who can help you dual boot your Mac so that you can choose either Mac or Windows, and then install Windows and then Visual Studio 2019 so that you can run Visual Studio for Windows on a Windows environment and have all of the functionality that everyone else has in the class. Either that or have access to a computer that is running Windows that has Visual Studio 2019 Community on it, or that you can put on it. So those are your options. You need to be running it out of a Windows environment. Otherwise, you're going to attempt to do some things in some of the assignments that you're just not able to do because Visual Studio for Mac doesn't have that for some reason. And I cannot explain to you why. It seems like if you create something for a second environment and you're calling it Visual Studio, that it should have all the same functionality as it would in another environment, but for some reason it does not. So again, don't try running Visual Studio for Mac. You will be frustrated and disappointed, and so will I. I will be very frustrated. I suggest using 2019. That is the version that I will be using. So you can again find that from the download sites here. The next piece is just do some HTML, a page about yourself. We're distance here, so an image is nice. Just a little bit about yourself. Doesn't have to be anything in particular. Whatever you'd like to put. And then again down here, make sure that you submit that final link to the class app that I've created. And when you submit the link, you test the link and make sure that it works, or you will receive a 0. That link should point directly to your file. So if you create a folder called Assign01, and then inside of that you put an index.html, then your full URL should be https://cgtweb2.tech.purdue.edu, and so on through your folder name. So be courses CGT 456, your folder name, then Assign01, then index.html is what you would submit. And once you submit it, it appears down below. Click it, make sure that it works, and loads your page. So that is what you will need to accomplish for this coming week. Also in this, I'll look at this research assignment 1. This is due February 1st. Again, we've got a URL submission link there at the top. Just looking at 2 pages, double spaced. Your references can start on page 3. Don't do a title page or anything like that. Just start paragraph 1 on page 1. And I want you to do a little research into how widely used is ASP.NET, what % of the existing website market share does .NET hold, and how does that compare to others? When did .NET come into existence, and anything else you'd like to research about ASP.NET to learn more about it. Describe C#. So C# is an object-oriented programming language. That's the language we will be using in this class. What other programming languages helped in forming C#? So kind of what is C# kind of based on, and what is it most akin to? Is C# a compiled language, and what does compiled mean? And anything else you can research and learn about C# as well. And then describe Visual Studio and what kinds of development it can be used for. So just a little assignment to have you go out and learn a little bit on your own about the technologies that we're using, and write a short little write-up about that. Ground your writings in factual data. APA format for citations and references. Again, no title pages, abstracts, just written paragraphs and references. That's all there is. Again, submit your URL to that class app. And again, the URL should point to your document. So if you create a Word document that ends in .docx, so your URL should be that CGTweb2 /courses/CGT456 /your folder name, which is the folder that ECN set up for you, which should be your unique login name, your career account login name, /RA1 let's call it RA1.docx. So again, make sure that you're getting those right. After you submit it, test it, see if it gives a link to download your document or load it in the browser, either way. So that's a good introduction and coverage of what needs to happen before we start the next week here. Just making sure that that you do get through all of this here in this first week so that we can really get started next week.